Welcome to Winspiration, a podcast that celebrates the entrepreneurial spirit and showcases the stories of individuals and businesses that are making a difference in our community. I'm your host, Jeannie, and I'm excited to bring you this podcast. Hi everyone, this is Jeannie from Winspiration Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. It's Resh. And just maybe I can give some short introduction that I know about Resh, but of course later we'll have here for him. Resh is an entrepreneur. I know that that he has 4 businesses that he has scaled to 7 figures. He's an investor. He is a community builder. He's a public speaker, speaking alongside people like Robert Kiyosaki. He was even the director of a Buffett online school in Asia, working with the family of Buffett and Warren Buffett, and also a bodybuilder and a family man. Oh my god, so much to unpack. So, Resh, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. Wow, that's a very good introduction, but yes, that's a little bit about me, correct. I'm doing great. Jeannie, I'm so happy to be your guest on Winspiration. I can't wait to share my story, and hopefully we can inspire people to be a better version of themselves today.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's just break the ice a little bit. Can you share one win that you had this past week? Just one win
This past week, one win that I actually had. Wow, actually this past week has been very successful, right? It has been very successful for me. I just actually finished a class, with Jeannie attended actually. So I finished a crypto futures mastery class. So that's one of the things that I actually teach. And we completed one of our largest batches, which was great, and we empowered a lot of people with the skill set to make daily income, right? And one of the top students, just when the class ended, she made over $1,300, right? Which was absolutely fantastic, being completely new. So that was a huge win for me. You see, for me, I determine my success by the people I can impact. Right, and through whatever I have to teach, if I can impact somebody to make more money, to live a healthier life, then that's a win for me. So that's a major win.
Wow. Yeah, because I was in the class, so what I really liked was it's not just about practical steps, which what Resh just shared, the student earning getting 1,000 plus. It's also the mindset behind that. So I think today let's dive into your mindset in that sense.
Absolutely.
What are the 3 biggest values that you think is very important in terms of being a successful investor?
Sure. So, I call this my 3 P's to success, right? I call this my 3 P's to success, and you all should remember this, right? So, the 3 P's very simply is, number 1, you got to be persistent. Right, you got to be persistent, right? With whatever goal that you set out to actually accomplish, there will be times where you have setbacks. There will be times where nobody views your stuff. There will be times where you lose money and whatnot. But regardless of all these setbacks, you've got to be persistent, right? So this is a principle for life, but not just in investing, right? So that's number 1. The second P, very simply, is passion, right? You got to have, if you really want to last long in something, in the end of the day, whether it's investing, whether it's business, whether it's whatever you just undertake, you need to actually like what you do, right? A lot of people are in jobs that they dislike. They are in careers and businesses that they're doing just to put food on the table, right? But it's going to be very hard if you're struggling to get out of bed because you absolutely hate what you're doing. Then it's time to leave. Right, so I always have this thing which I'm really blessed because I have, since 18 years old, I found something that I actually love to do, and I've been doing it every single day. And honestly, I don't feel like I work. You know what I mean? Right? I feel like it's an absolute joy, right? So you gotta have passion in what you do. And finally, the third thing is patience, right? And this is a very important principle in investing, in life, right? Results. People expect results to happen tomorrow, right? Like, show me the results next week. I want a 6-pack next month, right? I want $1 million within the next 1 year, right? But they don't understand that it takes time. Like today, if you look at me, you see all these accolades and whatever else, but it's a culmination of the work that I put in for 10 years, man, right? So like, I haven't become a public speaker, a professional speaker, in the last 1 month. Like, I've been putting work into my craft for over a decade, and that's what people don't see, right? I've gone on stage, I've bombed, in investing, I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's why I learned what not to do, right? So, you gotta have patience. Results don't happen overnight. Results take time to grow. So you gotta be patient with yourself. You gotta be persistent, and most importantly, you gotta love what you do. You gotta have passion.
Wow, that's 3 gems. So persistence, passions, and patience. So I pick up some words from what you shared just now regarding persistence, because I think what happens with a lot of us, including myself, is that we try something and then we get a setback and then we get fear, we got scared.
Yeah.
So what's your thought about that, and how do we actually overcome that fear and bounce back?
So this is very, very important to do with your relationship with failure, right? So in life we can succeed or we can fail, right? There's success, there's failure, but how do you define failure? What is your relationship with failure? For me, my relationship with failure is very good, in the sense that I know that there is no success without failure. And when I fail at something, when I bomb at something, it's just a chance for me to reflect to get better. It's seriously, there is no wins without losses. So again, like, my mind is set on like, hey, look, man, dude, if I fail, fantastic, right? Like, seriously, that's my relationship, right? I'm like, great, if I bomb, if I fail, if I lose money in this venture, at least I would have learned something, right? At least I can take something away to improve myself as a better person. So my relationship with failure is great. And when you can change your relationship with failure, instead of being scared, then everything just changes, right? Everything just switches up. So that's basically how I look at it, and so that's how I look at it.
Wow, yeah, that's really, really very important. I love it because you actually reframe failure to become something that actually you in a way look forward to.
Absolutely, I look forward to it.
Yeah, quite mind blowing, because when we think about failure, it's like very negative, and now you frame it that way. So yeah, I think this is really a great nugget that I've learned today. So the second part of your P was on passion. How did you find out that this is something that I like to do? Did you went around?
Actually, great question, right? So I'm gonna, this is a bit of a backstory, which is, I'm gonna summarize it a bit.
Okay.
When I was 18 years old, all I wanted to do was actually to actually sign on to become an officer in the army. That was my goal. That was my dream. I wanted to actually become an officer in the army. I was also a national weightlifter. I was representing Singapore in weightlifting.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So unfortunately, what happened was this: when I signed on to the army, which I was so happy, so eager, like that was the phase of my life which I was looking forward to. Unfortunately, in the first week of enlistment, I actually had a stroke. Right. I actually had a hemorrhage, and I was immediately sent out of the home, and I spent a large chunk of my time in the hospital. I lost sensation of the whole left side of my body. I couldn't feel my hands, I couldn't feel my legs. It's a point of time where I couldn't walk because I completely lost sensation, and it was a very scary period of my life. My mom was, it was just very, very scary, right? And just like that, literally every single one of my dreams were dashed. Right, the doctors told me that I could never up PES again, so I was down PES to PES F. I was made to become a clerk in the army, so I couldn't sign on. There's no way. My mom told me that she didn't want me to weightlift anymore. Right, so my dream of representing Singapore in the Olympics was gone, was dashed. And I was at this point in my life where I was like, what's the point of living anymore? Everything that I wanted to do, every goal that I had was just taken out by this one single sickness. Right, and Junior, I was 18 years old, right?
Oh my God.
Like, I was 18 years old, right? So I was in this very, very terrible state, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I'm sure many people can relate to this, where a lot of people, they don't know what they want to do, right, with their lives. And I was at that state, and I spent many nights like crying and whatever not, because I just didn't know what to do, right? My mom, told me this one thing. She came to my room and she said this. She said, "Son, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you." So my mom is a prayer warrior. So she told me, you can do all things, through God who strengthens you. And I was like, okay. let's see, right? So there was this poster which was hung up on my wall, right? And it was I can do all things. So I decided to say, you know what? If I can't use my body and my physicality, why not I try to use my brains? And I went out there to explore, right? I went out there to explore. I started attending seminars. I started reading books, and I was like, hey, I think maybe you can try to make some money, right? So I went out there to read some books. I went to some seminars, and I was mind blown, right? When I was exposed to this area of wealth generation, I heard with property investors, I heard e-commerce entrepreneurs, I heard stock investors, and I was like, holy shit, man! Like, I didn't know about all this, right? And the reason why is because like school doesn't teach you this stuff, right? Like unless you decide to step out of your 9 to 5, unless you decide to step out, only then will you get exposed to this whole new world. So I went and I was like, oh wow, this is insane, right? These normal people who look just like me can make millions of dollars. I think I can too, right? And most importantly, I found a mentor who I really resonated with, right? And I think the values that I really liked was that this man, this guy who I follow, and you learn from him yourself. His name is Sean. He was very God-centered. That was number one. Number two, it wasn't about showing off his Ferrari, even though he made millions of dollars. It wasn't about showing off a fancy car or whatever it is. It was always just about God. It was about family, right? And I really resonated with that. I was like, if there's somebody I want to follow, I want to be that person, right? Who put God first and family, right? And that's basically what I wanted. And thank God, at this very early age, God pointed me to a mentor who I could learn from, who I could really follow from, and I really love the subject, right? With regards to investing, I really loved it. I listened to it and I was like, oh wow, it's so fascinating, right? So, and again, I had this person to guide me along and to help me out. So that was the deal breaker. That's basically how I found what I love to do. I found somebody who would help me to get much further. And they say this one thing: you only can see how far you can go when you stand on the shoulders of giants. So at a very young age, I was very blessed to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants, and because of that, I have accelerated at a fast pace.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the story.
Wow. Thank you so much, because it's probably a part of your life which was very difficult, even for me to think about it at 18 years old.
Yeah, it was pivotal.
Yeah.
It was pivotal. It was the changing moment in my life which flipped the switch.
Yeah. And it's something that I think sometimes we do need to think, because for me, I've also gone through life running like in the rat race and so on. But we go day to day thinking that maybe tomorrow, we still have tomorrow, but maybe what if tomorrow never comes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what you shared is really mind-blowing, and I really appreciate you sharing this with and it's really a gift that you are giving to the world now, because you climb up and you found a mentor, and then you really work on your passion.
Absolutely.
So when you mentioned about your mentor and be on the shoulders of the giant, how do you actually find a mentor?
Okay, great. Very good question. So everyone knows how to find a mentor, for example, but I'll show you something. Okay, let me try to be discreet. You see, a lot of people say your net worth is your net worth, right? I think that's complete bullshit.
Wow. Okay.
Right? I know a lot of people. I just recently met a person who was like, oh yeah, I know all these rich people, but then this person was completely broke, right? It's not about who you know, but it's about what value you can bring to the people that you know. So your network is not your net worth. Let me reframe that. The value that you bring to your network will be your net worth.
The value that you bring to your network will be your net worth.
Right?
Wow.
So the value that you bring to your network will be your net worth, right? If there is something that you can bring to the table to help somebody, right, to help a person who is much higher than you, then they will do business with you, right? But what can you bring to the table? What do you have to offer to the person? How can you actually add revenue to him, right? How can you change his life? So what are the skill sets that you have which is able to help them, So at the highest level, imagine Jeff Bezos is in front of you. What do you have to offer that can change his life?
Wow.
Right? I think about that, right? If Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, is sitting in front of me, is there something I can do which can help him? Like he has everything and he needs, he has every contact. But what is it? What is different about you that will be able to do that, right? So I'm giving the extreme example, right? But at a lower example, let's say you're searching, you're looking out for me, right? What is the value that you can bring to me, such that I'll be interested to work with you and we can all grow together? You see what I'm saying? So for me, when I was 18, when I had nothing to offer, no one really gave a shit, honestly. Right? No one really cared. But very interestingly, when I worked on my craft and I started getting results, people were like, hey, wow, this one interesting, right? Well, 18-year-old boy getting results and everything, and they all wanted to use my story. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, then there's an asset more, then I can use your story and then I can market your story, for example, right? So think about it, that's how you got to know me as well. Right? So then they all milk me like crazy, right? So hey, I'm like, so I worked on my craft, I got better, then they noticed me. You see what I'm saying? Right? And then suddenly they all, from last time knock on the door, no one give a shit. Then suddenly now everyone wants to talk to me, right? So that's how you build, you go higher and higher and higher. Right? That's how you get to the next person who is at a higher level, and then you get to the next person at a higher level, and so that's how you grow.
Wow, I really love that because it also actually has the essence of being persistent that you shared just now.
Absolutely.
Because if you feel that, even though with the realization that okay, I want to bring some value to this community or this person, and maybe at that point of time you may think that you may not have it, but actually when you are persistent, when you are passionate in what you're doing, and the story, being worn up this way, and it's really very nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's how I found my mentors and stuff like that as well, right? So you've seen me do it, with all of these exercises we attended class together with Ethan and all that. So again, it's always about what you can bring to the table, right? And when you can, then hey, they want to have lunch with you, they want to dine you, and that's how you progress, right? But for me, I want to share with you, it's not about that. It's really about, seriously, my mind is always, and this is a huge part of my story actually. My mind is always about how can I give first, right? How can I serve first? How can I give first? We live in a world of people who constantly want to take, right? Who want to see how they can take money from you, who see how they can, but for me, I'm like, look, I'm just looking to serve, man. I'm looking to see how I can help you. And if I can help you, I know that it's the law of reciprocity, right? If I help you and hey man, I just deposited you, you remember that, right? And somehow in the future, you'll come back, right? So because of what I've done in terms of that, like literally I can pick up my phone and I can, if I need like some help, I can just pick up my phone and like people will be there to help because I've deposited so much into people over the last decade or so.
Wow. That's such a nugget there, because being depositing on somebody, and what I felt is that even the first encounter that I had with you, so I met Resh in a public speaking event, and imagine he's already an international public speaker and yet he is still honing his craft. I was mind blown, and I brought my daughter along. And he spent so much time and the effort, and also because my daughter has a small store and you actually supported her, and that was something that I saw that we don't really know you and yet you're putting so much in, and I think that is why you are living what you say and the values that you share, and that's how I really wanted to learn from you as well.
Awesome.
And in fact, the past 2-day course that I've attended is that what I felt was that you're giving so much more than what we are paying. And what I felt was that it's not just on the class itself. The after support is, oh my god, I've attended many classes. Most of the time it's just there and that, and the end you go and do it by yourself. And yet the support that you give, it means that the value that you're imparting to us is, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, right? So it's always you gotta live what you say, right? You gotta live what you say. So I always believe in that. I know that it's principles.
Sure. So maybe we move a little bit from investing to, recently we know that you actually won a bodybuilding competition. Congratulations for that.
Second place.
But wow, that's like, oh my god. So and having now listened to your backstory about when you are 11 and then now coming to this stage, Yeah. What got you into thinking to, you know, really build yourself up in terms of physical, you know, and then joining the bodybuilding competition?
Okay, so let me share. So I wrote this book called, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I wrote this book called The Six Pack Investor. So my IG is actually Six Pack Investor. So you know, there's two of my biggest passions. Essentially, I love fitness and I love investing, right? So it started off with fitness actually, right? I started going to the gym when I was in secondary school and all that. And to be honest, that laid the bedrock of discipline, consistency, of not giving up. Like, you know, all these principles you learn through sport. All these principles you learn through, you know, gym, right? Like going to the gym, for example. That's why I'm very, very insistent, and I always believe, like even for my son in the future, the focus will really be on sports, right? Because that's where you really learn values that you don't learn through books. So, so essentially, again, you know, it's always about sports, and I've managed to apply those principles that I got from, you know, training the gym to my business, through to everything, right? And to be fair, the whole competition and all that, I'm not exactly a competition junkie, or you know, it's not really like the reason why I joined the competition was actually for one reason, Ginny. It's not like to compete to win, or that's not really my goal. My goal was, look, when you actually commit to doing, like signing up for a competition, for example, you have no choice but to really, really be focused, right? So I always tell people, like, you know, there's no point playing the game of business or sport if there's no goal, right? Imagine playing football without goalposts. Then what's the point? You need a goalpost to work towards. So, you know, whenever I coach people, I always tell them, hey, what's the goal, right? What are we working towards, right? And you know, how long do we have to work towards that goal, right? So if somebody's coming to me for help with getting a six-pack, for example, I tell them, okay, cool, maybe in 12 weeks, let's sign up for a photo shoot. So you pay money for photo shoot, like, hey, well, you don't want to go there, you know, looking fat and ugly, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to train, right? Like, you know, or maybe you want to pick up a running habit. Then sure, let's sign up for a marathon. You know, sign up for a marathon. Like put your money, go and look for when's the next marathon, a half marathon. And you sign up, you put your money for a half marathon. You need to run, you know.
Correct.
You cannot just show up and do nothing. So for me, it was like I was, you know, in November last year, I was a little bit out of shape, and I was like, I really, really want to get back in shape, right? But I knew that just saying that will not be heavily motivated, but having okay, cool, by March 20 there's a competition. If I sign up for it, I have no choice.
Wow.
Right. So that's another principle of success, right? Like having deadlines and having deadlines. I think that to me it works really, really well, because you have to achieve X goal within X time. Yep.
Wow, yeah. And I really like it because you mentioned about sports being the way that you can learn about life as well. And this is something that you want your son to also learn.
Yep.
And it really resonates with me because yeah, I was in sports before, and actually it was every time when you shared about having a goal, it's every time when I have a goal, I actually can be, even if I don't achieve it, I'm near it.
Yep.
And the word focus is very important,
Yep.
because I think in what you are doing now, at one stage of your time, you're very focused into investing, focused into growing your wealth. And now you're focused into, you know, having this more holistic view.
Yeah.
And then now with your next generation,
Yes,
your
absolutely.
son coming along.
Absolutely. So it's about, you know, now I just became a dad relatively recently, just about 2 years ago. So now it's about living my best life, to make sure I show my son a good example, right? It just, you know, I'm sure you can relate with the mother of 3 kids.
Yes.
Right? So for me, it's really about, you know, being the person who is an example, right? Like my dad was my hero. I want to be the hero to my son, right? Like, hey, you know, my son can't talk yet, but maybe sometime in the future, Aiden, right? When if you can tell me, Daddy, you're my hero, oh, I'll be very happy, right?
Yeah,
so,
maybe one day he can come to the podcast.
Sure. Hey, you know, you'll be a 10-year-old millionaire.
Yes.
Let's
Looking
see.
forward to that. Yeah. So since you mentioned about the son, your son Aiden, right?
Yes.
So what is the legacy that you want to leave for him? You know, of course you mentioned you are his hero. You want to be his hero in his eyes. And in a larger sense of picture, in terms of your legacy, what do you think you want to leave for your son?
Very good. I heard this quote very recently, and it really impacted me. It's not about what you leave for your children, it's what you leave in them.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And you know, that was fantastic. That was a real, like, it set in me like oof, right? Because we make money and stuff like that. And a lot of us, we want to be able to provide the best for our children and stuff like that. But you got to remember that it's not what you live for them, it's what you live in them. And it's about leaving the values in them so that they can step up and become better. The next generation is always set up so that they can actually be better, but the only way they be better is if you leave good values and principles in them, right? And that's ultimately what I aim to do, right? Like, look, I sure I want to support my son, whatever, but the main thing will not be with finances, but the main thing will be with his mind, right? Like, number one, to teach him to be a giver, right? Number one, that's the most important thing for me. To teach him to always first give, to bring him for charity events, to bring him to community fundraising events, to actually make him understand that he's blessed and that he's blessed to be a blessing.
Wow, right? That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Blessed to be a blessing.
Yeah, that he's blessed to be a blessing, right? So that's something that I want to inculcate in him. Like we are already doing that. Again, he can't really talk and stuff, but we are already showing him, right? We bring him for events and he sees, right? And again, they see, they know, they can tell. So that's something that me and my wife are very, very insistent on. And yeah, so I think as long as he learns how to be a good giver, he will be able to be a blessing to people around him. And when you learn to be a blessing to the people around you, finances, favors, everything will follow.
Oh, that's very beautiful.
Yep.
I will just reiterate because it's so good. It's not about what you are living for them, it's what you are living in them.
Yep.
Yeah, in this case, your son.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So I think we come to the end of our session because I would love to leave our audiences with that last quote. And as what I say, I actually went through your course and I really saw the impact that it could have in terms of if you want to learn and follow Resh more, his IG is Six-Pack Investor, so SIXPACINVESTOR.
Don't worry, we'll leave the links.
Okay, we'll leave the links down there, down below in the description.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you so much, Resh.
Cool.
And I hope to be able to invite you again on our podcast.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to our journey together.
Absolutely. Guys, it's been a pleasure being here. Winspiration, just watch out, it's going to be an absolutely amazing podcast. It's going to change lives. All right. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Resh. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the Winspiration podcast, please subscribe and share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube in the links down below. Thanks again for listening to Winspiration, the podcast that helps you win.